And we're back. Stripe Show podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Travis Fulton. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you yesterday for those that tuned in. Whoa. Got Banks in the backdrop here. Working on his driver swing, total driving. Ripping one down the middle for some further entertainment here on today's show. But yeah, thank you for yesterday. As the numbers were great. Hunter Mayhem joining us. Great discussion about Wyndham Clark, Oklahoma State right now, taking over. Victor Hovland getting the win at Memorial. Ricky Fowler on his way back getting a W. Wyndham Clark went to Oklahoma State before he went on to the University of Oregon. So lots of Oklahoma State Cowboys. Austin Eckroat, a name that might be brought up today. Oh, no, Austin went to Texas. I'm sorry. Austin Eckroat went to Texas. But UT Longhorns, they're playing some good golf too. Guy joining me here, he was out there in LACC US Open, makes the long trip now over to Connecticut. That's our guy. Keith Stewart, read the line. How are you, sir? Welcome back to the East Coast.
I think in all my years of covering and following golf, there's never been a more appropriate sponsor choice than the Travelers for this week. It's been all of us are looking at one another around the building and the players, and John Rahm came in for the press conference this morning, and it was just kind of like, so we're here now. Here we go.
Yeah, right. That's a little different media center there at in Cromwell than down there at LACC. What do you got going on?
You know, TPC River Highlands, we got a pool and a pond.
Okay.
They gave me the pool, thankfully. So
all right.
It's this is the podcaster central. I'm looking across at somebody else who's doing one, but right now as I speak. But the pool is the place to be right now for the Stripe Show.
Well, you're doing a great job. We appreciate your hard work and your time here on the show. I know my audience loves what you have to say about the field. We've got a great field at the Travelers. We'll get to it here in a second. Elevated event, but let's put a bow on that of the U.S. Open at LACC. Your thoughts, final round, how everything finished up out there at the West Coast.
I was a big fan of LACC and the U.S. Open. I thought that the golf course, I always say if they set the golf course up right and it's a good golf course, you're going to get a great leaderboard. And you can't argue with that top five. Some people may have preferred that Ricky or Rory won over Wyndham Clark because they're fans of those two, but that doesn't mean that Wyndham Clark wasn't a worthy champion. And the guy's got some serious stones to hit the shots that he did coming down the stretch. You know, I think about that shot that Gary Woodland hit off the green on the 71st hole, you know, when he hit that little pitch shot across the 17th hole there at Pebble Beach. And the pitch that Wyndham hit on 11 off that tight Bermuda grass. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Just awesome. The 3-wood, you know, the complement of talents it takes to hit that 3-wood into 14, where everyone was, you know, kind of screwing that hole up. That just wasn't an instant birdie, par 5 on the back 9. To me, I was happy with LACC. The one disappointment is that you wish there were more fans. I can't begin to say I understand why they didn't have 40,000 per day like they did at Oak Hill. I think that definitely would have changed people's perceptions of how the whole thing went down. But outside of that, I mean, you can't really complain about the golf course, the design, and what the USGA allowed to have happen. Rather than try to trick the place up, they just said, "Hey, go play." And did they go soft the first day? But they started at 6:40 in the morning, Travis, and sunset was 8:06. I looked on my phone, and the last players were coming off the golf course at 8:15. So no one brings up pace of play, but they argue that that they made the golf course too easy that day. They kind of have to make it a little easy on Thursday and Friday. Otherwise, they don't get 156 players around the track.
Yeah, well, take some people out. I mean, if it's that big of an issue, then drop it down. 12. Whatever. So
whoa.
You can't have your leaders finishing in the dark on Saturday.
Wait a second. Now that's a totally different discussion. But when you say take people out, there's a kid in Idaho that was 10 years old listening to the U.S. Open theme song last week, thinking about qualifying. You're the first thing you're going to remove are qualifiers, I'm sure. And that,
I don't want
that
to do that. I don't want to do that. But if you can't get around in a reasonable time and it's an issue and you got people finishing in the dark and it affects the magnitude and the bigness that should be of the US Open, then I'm willing to make those cuts. There's got to be sacrifice somewhere. It just didn't feel, and I don't want to get too far into this. My thoughts are well documented yesterday on the US Open. I guess in a nutshell, what I would say is that the USGA, in my opinion, made it more about LACC than they did the US Open. And that went from signing up with LACC and trying to make US Open work on that course, which you clearly couldn't get stands out there. You clearly couldn't move people around to see good golf and make an atmosphere that should represent the US Open. And so it lacked energy. It felt corporate because they gave away most of their tickets, or they didn't give them away, but they sold most of their tickets to LACC members who controlled the narrative of who was going to come and watch the tournament. And so that's what you get. You don't get a lot of energy coming through the TV. And, but look, is it a good course? It seemed like a good course. Didn't feel great to me. But that's just my opinion from probably 5,000 miles away. But nonetheless, let's give Wyndham Clark his due, because we had a good chat yesterday with Hunter about Wyndham Clark. When I watch Wyndham, he's been on the podcast before, and we heard from him today actually, and he's gonna come back here in a couple weeks as well and give us our time. Wyndham's a good guy, but when I look at Wyndham, and I went back and listened to that podcast, and I talked to some of his previous coaches, his agency that used to represent him. I think the biggest difference in Wyndham is really the maturity. And really, I think just being a little bit more at peace with himself, not running quite so hot, and kind of taking it for what it is in a round of golf over a context of 4 rounds. And I think the maturity, Wyndham Clark, the person, the man, more than anything of his game, was the difference that we saw on Sunday. That dude was in charge. He was in control. I didn't think he would come back. I thought you had to go get him. When you watch that round on Sunday, Wyndham Clark handled himself just fine. And at no point did I feel like Wyndham Clark. Now, he gave a couple away. I get that. But I didn't feel like he was going to lose the US Open. I just didn't.
I mean, I agree. You don't need to. No one needs to preach to me how good Wyndham Clark is. Just rewind the tape. Was that our first week or our second week of doing this show? Right?
Yeah.
75-1 at Wells Fargo. I saw him on the range. That's the point of me going to the pool, right? Is that I walk the practice area. I look at these guys prepare. I walk the golf course. I'm doing it for the benefit of your listeners, my readers, for everybody, right?
Yep.
There's something to be said for watching these guys live.
Yeah.
And what I saw that week at Wells Fargo touched me in my competitive soul, right? I'm like, this guy is ready to do something good. And the numbers back that up. Don't get me wrong, which led me to go watch him. But when I watched him hit the ball, I was like, man, this guy's got a presence about him. This is pretty cool. And stars develop from somewhere.
Yep.
And, Cam Smith just didn't he just didn't appear.
Right.
Over time, these guys, they progress, they get better. So I'm one of the least, I'm the last person that would be surprised that at 60-1, he could pull off a US Open win. I mean, he sat there in the last group with Xander Schauffele at Wells Fargo, stared him down and won by 4. I mean, it's the guy's good. And I was, with his story and everything, enough has been made of it already, but for sure, what a wonderful guy to have be our national champion. So
yep. I agree.
Congrats to him and his team.
Yep. I agree. And a smaller team, because he's doing it with his caddy, John Ellis. So there is no entourage of swing coaches and short game and this and that's following him around. Now he has a sports psychologist that he started with just about 6 or 7 months ago, and she's really helped him. But yeah, it's cool. I like it. He, he's one of those guys that I think came out of college. He won the Pac-12 championships in Oregon, and he's a stud. He was
player of the year.
Yeah. And he was a stud, and he, kind of got knocked down a little bit. And then, he was still finding himself from the passing of his mother. And so, he kind of was finding his way, and he's, I think, internally has dug deep, looked himself in the face, got to make a couple changes, chill out a little bit, be a better person, this and that. And by golly, it's cool to see. His last 4 tournaments he's played, he's won twice, both folks. Wells Fargo back in May, and now the U.S. Open last week in L.A. Now, we're not in L.A. anymore. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm over the USG. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Anybody finishes in the dark this week, my head's going to explode.
Well, hey, that was a bad decision. But, the fact that, everyone's pulling apart this golf course, it's just, they just weren't there. They just don't know how good it is. Now,
well, this golf course now, wait a minute. This golf course I've played, TPC River Highlands. I've played this course a couple times.
Oh, it's a fun golf course.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It is. That's the best way to describe it. It's the way I describe it every year. It's fun. It's not long. It's not long. It's under 7,000. I think it's the second shortest course on the PGA Tour, I believe.
Correct.
Par 70 they play it at.
Not all par 70s are the same.
Not all par 70s are the same. Bent grass. It's just fun. Anybody can go out there and play it. You're going to have some good shots. You're going to get rewarded. There's some difficult holes. It's going to challenge you in its own way. Xander won here last year, of course, at 19. Harris English back in 2021. 13, COVID year. I remember DJ won. And then you got guys like Ches Reavie, who's won here back in 2019. Bubba dominated this place in his day, 3 wins. And then Spieth back in 17.
Russell Knox.
Kevin
Streelman. Yeah.
Kevin Streelman. So you kind of got this wide range of names. You got some of the shorter hitters. It's kind of the unassuming champions. You've got some of the bigger names, guys that can overpower it. So you got to dig here a little bit now. That's why you're here. You got to dig a little bit on who we like this week. So
big names like Ken Duke.
Ken Duke.
I knew I'd get you with that one if you didn't bring it up. Names like Ken Duke.
Big names like Ken Duke and Ches Reavie. Bigger name, Ken Duke or Ches Reavie. Bigger
Russell
name.
Knox. Yeah, I don't know. It's but we're gonna dig deep. Let's hit the board. Let's do this.
All right. Well, give us some insight here. What's the course look like? Give me some key stats. I've kind of got my stats circled, loaded in here. Some things that I'll give you the clean slate here of the kind of player that we're going to be looking for this year. Elevated event, first time, elevated event.
Yeah.
The Travelers.
Truth be told, though, the Travelers has done a fantastic job of coming up with a philosophy on how they were going to grow this event. Yes, they take the best care of players. They have chartered flights. They brought people here, the week after the U.S. Open. They've done a lot of great things, but I think one of the smartest things that they ever did was they offered a lot of tournament exemptions to young superstars.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers Cantley coming here and his first time shooting 60, but Ricky was one of the first ones the year that it was Colin Victor and Justin Suh. Those 3 came out together and they offered those guys. So everyone, Rahm said it even today. He said, this was one of my first sponsors exemptions, and I'll always come back when I can, and yes, I'm here because the rules tell me to do, and I probably wouldn't have done it this year from LA to here, but I do like this event. I think the golf course is fun. The golf course is in great condition. And I just joke there, not all par 70s are the same. Whereas we went from 5 par 3s and these massive par 4s there at LACC, we're 600 yards shorter. We've got 10 of the 12 par 4s fall under 450 yards. So when we start to figure this thing out, we're talking for a Pete Dye playbook. We're thinking more Pebble Beach, Harbor Town than we are definitely LACC or Bombs Away. Positional. And then I like to call that, like the type of golf course where there's 18 par 3s. Everyone hits to the same spot off the tee. And then from there, they're playing a par 3 on every hole. And who's the best in that range on approach? And then also converting. One of the things that kind of has thrown me for a loop over the years is that almost always the number one indicator on tour for success is approach play. Well, it's not here. It's putting. The winners over the last decade gain more, almost a stroke more on average with the putter than they do with their irons, which is interesting. That tells you that they're not crazy greens here, which means that good putters can excel here. Or if you're hot with a putter, you can excel here. So those are a couple of things that I'm really keeping an eye on. Get it in position and then score on those little mini par 3s each hole presents you. Par 70, this, Travis. I mean, we talk about it all the time. You have to find ways to score outside of the par 5s. And those who can do that are all over what we're going to talk about for the next, 20 minutes or so.
All right. So you got a lot of par fours from 400 to 450. You got a lot of shots from 150 to 175. I'm talking like an abundance of shots from 150 to 175 above average on the PGA Tour. Well above. And then it's a huge drop from 175 to 200. Huge drop on average to the PGA Tour. So 150 to 175 is key number. Second key range, 125 to 150. You're going to be seeing guys, they have got to excel on those par fours. Yes, get it in play, get into that spot, but then you've got to excel from those two distances, those gaps. And then of course, just like to your point, you're going to have to make some putts on these bent grass greens that are pretty straightforward, right? That are kind of right there in front of you. And you add it all up, you're going to have to make some birdies, and you're going to have to get it into the teens if you're going to want to win this thing. All right. How much? Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Before we get into the field, because this is an elevated event, and you look at some of the guys that are playing here, and would they play here? Have they played here in the past, and would they if it wasn't an elevated event? Do you put too much stock into those that you look at their career up to this point, they chose not to play in the Travelers because perhaps they didn't like the course, or is it more of a schedule? Do you put much weight into that?
I think we can answer that question by just looking at their skill sets. I think certain guys understand what they're good at, and they don't show up at places where they don't think that they can contend or separate themselves from the field. You go back to what we were just talking about, those approach shots. And then if you just look at strokes gained approach, I mean, I know buckets aren't the end all be all, but it gives you an idea of, is this guy a good scoring irons player? Because those two buckets there, that means everything from a gap wedge to an 8-iron for, the standard guy on tour. Or are they really good at their long iron play? And when I say these things all the time, people say, well, Keith, what does that mean? Well, if you're somebody like Victor Hovland, who's the best long iron player on tour, that's how you differentiate yourself from other people. So would you normally show up to a place where wedge play is the big difference? Or if you're Rory and you love to rip the driver and that's your big differentiator? Scotty's good across the board, but you would pick places that suit you the best you could, unless they said, A, you have to play there, or B, there's $20 million on the line, right? And then you try to maybe go put a round peg in a square hole. But if you're going to separate yourself, I say this every week, it's like splitting hairs, picking winners. If you're going to separate yourself, you got to really look at who's good at what we're asking for them to be great at in order to win. And although maybe Ken Duke doesn't really resonate with a lot of people like Tiger Woods does, he was a great wedge player that week. In order to win. And to answer your question, people are showing up year after year before it became designated because they knew with their wedge game, Russell Knox, is a great example of that, because he knew he could contend and play well there, right? Xander, good wedge player, right? Patrick Cantlay, good wedge player, right? So at the end of the day, I think it's a combination of things. This year, it's definitely round peg, square hole, especially going 2,911 miles between venues. I looked it up today.
That's what it was, huh? Wow.
Yeah, because I have to write like 5,000 words today. I was like, I got to come up with something here, to kind of set the scene. 2,911 miles these guys traveled along with me to get from one place to the other, and they got to be, you got to be focused to win. Yeah. And who really wants to win? Here's a question for you, right? You think that a guy that hasn't won yet, but has played really well, would be more focused this week than just the average guy?
Morikawa?
Xander?
Yeah.
Rory?
Yeah.
I mean, Rory and Cantlay sit in the top 10 of FedEx Cup points. They haven't won yet this season.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I guess if you count Rory at CJ Cup, he did. But, I mean, in the calendar year.
Hideki?
Yeah.
So you go to 125 to 150 yards. Okay, let's get into that wedge game here. Last 100 rounds.
Do it.
Last 100 rounds. Here's your top 10. Russell Henley, Matsuyama, Duffner, Scheffler, Hovland, Morikawa, Tom Kim, interesting name.
Yeah.
Corey Connors, Ricky Fowler. So those are just top 10, just kind of, kicking into this, a couple of these proximities. Top 10 from 150 to 175, Morikawa, Moore, Hovland, Tom Kim. Matsuyama, Knox, Scheffler, JT, Robbie Shelton, Siwoo Kim. Kind of interesting just looking at the key ranges, top 10 last 100 rounds coming in, who's really excelling from that proximity. Now, let's get into the odds. Obviously, Scheffler's going to kick us off here at 6-1.
Yeah.
He actually did finish positive 1.2 putting. I thought if he finished positive, I think what I say 2 point something, 2.5, that he would win. And well, we about needed that.
I agreed with you. I said if he was just positive, he'd win.
Yeah. Positive 1.2. Rahm, of course, is no wait. Cantlay right now is at 11.
Oh,
Cantley's at 11. McIlroy's 12. Rahm's 12. And then we'll stop at Schauffele at 14. Yeah, Scheffler did make some putts. He did give a couple away at times, as we saw. I think Rahm had to be pretty encouraged by the way he played. 10th at the U.S. Open. Of course, he wanted to win, but I think his short game, his putting was good. Cantlay 14th at the U.S. Open, putted great. Driver was great.
Yeah.
I think Rory has to feel very good about the way that he played. Just didn't make enough putts on Sunday.
I mean, it's ridiculous. You go through a U.S. Open, hit 59 of 72 greens in regulation.
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, come on. That is a clinic.
Yeah,
right there.
He's got to feel great the way that he's getting it done. Just situation. He couldn't make a putt. We were talking about it yesterday with Hunter. It's like, my God, just, Scheffler and Rory on Sunday. It's just like, God, you get those, they can't make a putt.
I tell you what, just a quick side commentary. The most uncomfortable thing that I caught parts of in coverage was Brad Faxon commentating on Rory competing to get this first major in 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing everything perfect, but he's not making a putt. And you could hear it in his voice. I mean, you really felt for the guy that he was just like, I want to root for this guy so bad, but I can't because of what I have to do. I thought that was a really interesting side story that was taking place there. But
I think in the 4 short odds, if I'm going to bet anybody, I think McIlroy wants to win right now. I think he feels like he's playing great golf. This is his 4th in a row, though, tournament. And I think of those 4, if I had to take a short odd at this place, I would go McIlroy.
He's been here 4 times, no top 10s. That being said, I can't disagree with you there. Yes. I really can't. I mean, this contest this week, I just said it before, it's 18 par 3s. He hit 59 of 72 greens at a U.S. Open on a golf course that's 600 yards longer.
Yeah.
Right?
It's 600. Wow.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term stripe show, but it was a freaking stripe show. I was there. I mean, watching him hit driver it reminded me of 2011 at the U.S. Open and Congressional. Perfect balance. You couldn't tell if he was hitting driver, 7-iron, or a wedge.
Mm-hmm.
And he was shaping shots. I mean, unbelievable. So the only reason I could figure out that Rory wouldn't be in the conversation come Sunday is fatigue, mental fatigue.
Yep.
It's that would be the only reason why.
Yep.
But I already brought it up. I think there's guys that haven't won yet this year that need that satisfaction of winning. They put in the hard work, they've set goals, and they want to do it. And they're going to be pressing this week. And I think I think Cantlay, and I think Rory are at the top of that list by far. They have not won in this calendar year, and they all looked extremely motivated last week, and it didn't work out.
Yep.
We have 7 weeks left. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 weeks.
7 weeks left till the FedEx Cup playoffs.
Yep.
And, not that any of those 3 are going to be outside the top 70, but they want to win this year. They don't want to go a year without a win. So Rory attracts my attention. One of the guys, I'm going to go Cantlay over Rory, but they both, top 5 on both and feel really good about it.
Rahm's been here one time, COVID year, T37. I don't know if you put too much into Rahm. Hasn't played here other than that COVID year when they were all here. And now, obviously back here for an elevated bet. You look at the next round. Now you get into Victor Hovland at 20, Fleetwood continuing to play good golf, 63 on Sunday at 25, Morikawa 25. Let's just stop there with those. I think if I had to pick there, I would go back to Vic. He was T11 here back in 2020, top 20 at the U.S. Open last week. Iron's not quite what we're used to seeing from Vic last week, but again, I think this complete player now, Victor Hovland, we saw him win at Memorial, and just the short game, I don't think is an issue now. This is a course, nonetheless, that it doesn't require a great short game. I mean, I think you're not going to be challenged like incredibly difficult shots here around the green. Now, you can't be a dog, but it's not like like what we saw last week. But I don't think it's a weakness anymore. I think he's in full control what happens there. I think he's more of a complete player, and I think this is a good spot for him. So if I had to go of those three, I'd give the nod to Hovland.
You have long grass around the greens here, which always helps any short game player. So, but I'm with you completely there on Victor as far as the short game not being an issue anymore. But I'm still feeling the flow. I'm going to go with Fleetwood. Three top fives in his last five, and I had Victor at Memorial. It's tough to win multiple times. We've seen that on tour.
I think where my trajectory is going with Hovland right now is similar to a Scotty Scheffler, what we saw there.
Ooh, whoa.
Yeah. And I think Hovland is a guy off the tee and iron game that can compete with the Scheffler. Now, Scheffler's in another stratosphere right now. We get that.
Yeah.
But if you had to come down from that and you had to be like, okay, who would be right there with, I think Hovland would be on the short list with the driver and the irons. And so I feel like this momentum now that we're seeing with the short game, and I think Hovland's a better putter.
Yeah.
I think Hovland right now should be as confident as he has ever been in his professional career right now. And so I think he comes into this place. I think he looks at this place like, okay, I got to play from the fairways and let my iron game go to work a little bit. Short game's not going to be, a huge issue here. I give the tip of the cap there to Hovland to clip off another win here by the end of the year. It's his fourth win. It's not like it was I granted the other three weren't like super elevated wins, but right now in Victor Hovland's professional career, he's got to be feeling as confident as he ever has been, doesn't he?
What happened last week?
Well, his irons weren't as sharp. He just wasn't as sharp with his irons.
Yeah.
I think if Hovland, and which is unusual for Victor, right? To lose, I think it was 1.5.
That's what gives me pause.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the thing. Again, we're talking about the fifth best player in the world, right? If he clicks it, he wins.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
But if I have to pick somebody in that group of three, Colin would be third, Vic would be 2, and Fleetwood would be 1 right now. Fleetwood to me represents what this place is all about. He's gaining with the driver, he's gaining with the putter, and he's gaining with his irons. All over 2 strokes in his last 5 starts. That's super well-rounded. That's what you think of when you think of Xander, who's your defending champion. And I think Fleetwood's learned some lessons in the last couple weeks. And I'm not saying this for recency bias because, he had 63 on Sunday or whatever. That just tells me he's still playing great like he was in Canada. He's got 3 top 5s in his last 5 starts. And
but the one in Canada, I'll push back a little. The one in Canada was an insane putting weight, +9. That was, you're not going to get that. +9 putting from Fleetwood, you're not banking on that. That's a guy that roams, just slightly above average on the PGA Tour. So he, I agree. His driver's has been elite. And so has Victor's, by the way. Both of them are driving it elite. So it comes down to between those two, who's been the better iron player over the last, I'd give the nod to Fleetwood. No question. I think Fleetwood has been a little better iron player than Victor. Around the green, Victor's probably, or Hovland's probably, or Fleetwood's probably been just a little bit better. And then putting pretty close. Now, win equity, who's got a little dog deep down, it's not even close, right? I mean, if I got Hovland and Fleetwood coming down the stretch, it's Hovland all day, right? So it's an interesting one though. Like, it's interesting with Fleetwood that as good as he is, you know, when you look at him statistically, and you look at how there's really no weakness that the guy can't get to the finish line with one of these. You know, it's got to be frustrating, I'm sure, for him. And can he continue that play and finally chip one off? We'll have to wait and see. So that's interesting there. I just so funny. The guys that handicap, then they just keep betting Fleetwood. They just keep running back. You got to go now because he's playing such great golf. And so it's like, man, you got to keep pushing him out there, because as soon as you don't, and he wins one, you've been doing it for 2 years now. Every single time he tees it up, pushing Fleetwood out there at 40, 50, 60 to 1. And now he's at what? 25? Nah. Hovland 20, Fleetwood 25. That's a no-brainer. All right, let's move on. Henley 35. No way. No thanks. Finau 35. Tom Kim 35. Fitzpatrick 40. I like Fitz here.
Why do you like Fitz? Talk to me. Walk me through it.
Let me pull it up here. Hold on a second. It just jumped off. I like Fitz. Strokes gained putting. Last 100 rounds, 19th. So you got to make some putts, right? You know Fitz is gonna.
Yes.
You know Fitz is gonna get it done there. Approach game.
Agree.
Approach game. Upper third. Off the tee, probably top 10 in the field.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's going to live from the fairway. Proximity from our key distances is a concern for me. Now, I say that Fitzpatrick has this funny way where he has his strengths off the tee, make some putts, right? He's going to make a lot of birdies. He's going to play from the fairway, all these things. And then he has his weaknesses, which is his overall approach game, right? And then at times he'll go positive 4, 5, 6, and he wins. And that's what we've seen from Fitzpatrick. And so if I'm going to roll with Fitzpatrick, and here's my theory, if I'm going to roll with Fitzpatrick, I'm going to roll at a place where iron game, we're going to be living from 125 to 175. And that's where I'm going to expect him to pop and let the putter go to work and get that thing to 17, 18 under.
I kind of view it in an opposite light. I just, if I'm at a place where we know the total focus is that approach category, and that's the one place where, you know,
I don't think it's so. I don't think, but putting, but you just said putting was number one.
True. But, you know, you have to create those opportunities inside 15, 20 feet, right? And we know about the buckets. It's been well explained by you already that, you know, it's this wedge through 9-iron, these scoring irons that you have to hit well. When I think of the top 5 guys on the PGA Tour that do that year after year after year, one of the first names that comes to mind for me on these golf courses, Sony, Harbor Town, Pebble, Mayakoba, Russell Henley. He's aggressive. He makes a lot of birdies.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you could preach to me about win equity, and I can't defend myself. But I can tell you this much. On these style of golf courses, if we were having that par 3 contest over all 18 holes from 135 yards or whatever, Russell Henley is beyond elite.
Yep.
You know that, and I know that. Now, we all know he's probably not the same putter that Matt Fitzpatrick is. He's certainly not a U.S. Open champion, but Russell Henley, if you look at the numbers, has been playing good. He was 14th last week at the U.S. Open. So he's a guy that really has my attention this week. And, you know, he's had a lot of Pete Dye success. He's won already on tour this year. He won at Mayakoba, which is a total patience, positional, target practice golf course where length doesn't really play a factor. I love the fact that he just fires at every pin. If you've ever walked with that guy during a round, there is not a pin that he won't fire at. Now, that has cost him a lot in his career. But, man, when that guy's on, he rattles off 8-9 birdies around. And
yep.
I feel like this is the type of week for that, because one of the things we haven't touched on yet is that the conditions this week are going to be polar opposite of what we saw last week. We're going to get rain this weekend. The golf course is dry, but it's going to get softer. It's going to get substantially softer. It's going to be a real marine layer, one that like drops water on the golf course. And there's not going to be very much wind. So I really feel like converting 15-foot putts and getting to 15 feet is how this thing's going to play out. Just from walking around here.
I had the win ticket on Russell, was it 2 years ago, and he grabbed the lead, I think, on the
Sony?
15th. No, at Travelers.
Oh, okay. Travelers. Yep.
Yeah, a couple years ago. I had a win ticket on him, and I think he was 50-1. And he grabbed the win. He grabbed the lead after 15, and then went and like it just hit him. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna win. And then he went to 16. I think he made double on 16 and doubled 17. Like he went back-to-back doubles or back-to-back bogey double or something, and he finished in the top 20. So I'm a little bitter with Russell, and I'm over. And I'm
the truth
over,
comes out.
No, I'm over. What I'm over is getting so gung-ho about Xander Schauffele, in a major championship. And then Xander gets up there, and what did Xander do on Sunday? Back the other way, right? Ricky Fowler. We've seen that. Now, nice story with Ricky. It's the first time he's been in the hunt like that in a long time. All right, I'll give him a pass. Russell Henley, I don't know, kind of feels that way a little bit about me too. Feel like I kind of get that feeling when he gets moment hits him. Where are we at situationally? Now it's an elevated event with the Travelers. I just don't see Russell Henley that way, Now, a couple years ago, that field, I'm totally with you. I think it's a good place for Russell. And I thought about this, and I looked back through my notes, and I remembered it like it was yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, Russell, he's going to win this thing. And this is it. I got it.
Yep.
And then he just literally shit the bed, like it just, and so I'm just over that. Like I want some win equity, man. And I'm liking Fitz, and I'm liking his confidence, and I'm liking what I'm seeing in his approach game. It is getting better. He was positive 2.5 last week. Didn't drive it as well as he usually did either at the US Open, and finished 17th. So I'm coming at it a little different angle. I'm hoping for that spike week that we've seen from Fitzpatrick in the past, like we saw at Heritage, where he goes positive 6.2. Right? Similar course, kind of all playing from the same spot. RBC Heritage. See where I'm going? Now I'm reeled him in. Get him in here.
Well, all right. My caveat in the end is that he hasn't won since he took the braces off. So maybe that was the key.
All right. Okay. Good discussion. All right.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Oh, there's some good names coming up.
You're not going to stop me at Finau, are you? 35. I'm shutting this thing down.
Let's just keep throwing some names. Okay. I'm not stopping you there.
All right, Tom Kim. We talked. There's Finau. Fowler at 40. You've been pumping Fowler up. I thought he was going to get there, and then the situation hit. Matsuyama at 40. You like Matsuyama here at all?
No, because I don't know. I don't see that it plays to his strengths as much as it did last week.
Yeah.
So, no, we keep moving.
Right. Si Woo 40. Sung J M 45. Cameron Young. Real quick. I'm not going to bet Cameron.
Who?
But he's starting. Yeah, right. He's starting to put the pieces back together. I'll leave it at that. There's some signs with Cameron all of a sudden. Like he looks like he's moving in the right direction. Now, starting with making the cut, and then 50th, and then what was he? I think he was last week. He
32 last week.
32nd, yeah.
Yeah, with Hideki.
Yeah. Max Homa 50. Wyndham Clark, U.S. Open champ 50. Sahith Theegala played good here last year at 55. Brian Harman. Is there anybody that's played this course better than Brian Harman at 60?
Oh man, you want to talk about how Russell Henley makes you upset about that not cashing that ticket? I took Brian Harman in my season-long fantasy draft this year out in Vegas with the guys. I took him as my third pick, and he's been on a hunting trip since then. He went back-to-back runner-ups to close the year last year, and oh man, I tell you. And then he showed up in the U.S. Open. Of course, I didn't put him in my lineup, so I don't know. I'm probably not the right person to ask about Brian Harmon. This place is a perfect fit for him. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you've got a lefty like Bubba that's won here a bunch, right? I'm not throwing out like Augusta National comps here or anything, but there are definitely trends that happen on golf courses. And Harmon's got 5 top 10s here, which is, for certainly maximizing his skill set for a specific venue. Yeah. And so I mean, Harmon for sure is a great placement bet here. He's another one of those guys. I mean, we could argue till we're blue in the face about Henley and Harmon and a bunch of those guys that have been really solid middle tier guys for over a decade that only have a couple wins. Yeah.
But no one's gained more strokes here in the last 5 years than Brian Harmon in this field. Now, granted, a lot of these big names haven't played here, so over 5 times, but it's worth noting he has played well. Thagala, something he's not quite. I'm waiting a little bit on Sahith. We know that Sahith can get it done with the flat stick.
Yeah.
We know the driver is his bugaboo. Can he overcome that this week? His approach game, okay. We know his short game can be spectacular. He's kind of just treading water, it seems, right now. Sahith, I think I'm going to probably stay away from him this week.
So you're in that price range, right? 2 guys, Sahith, or do you want Denny McCarthy? Because they're both great putters, right? But don't you think the way that somebody like, and I'm just using the name Denny McCarthy but look at what he's done. He's drastically improved his approach game. He gets the ball in play off the tee. I just don't see that kind of progression from Sahith. Obviously an extraordinary player. Don't get me wrong, Yeah. But at the end of the day, like working toward that first win, I feel like DMAC has taken those types of steps to get it done.
Yeah.
Fleetwood's taking those types of steps to get it done. I just feel like with Sahith, it's always like a roller coaster. It's like,
for sure.
And it's for me, it's a little bit too emotional at this moment to pull off the win, because as the thing comes to a crescendo, man, it's just tough to ride that wave. Look at the way he crashed at the WMPO last year. Look at the way it fell apart here at Travelers, right? So get the control that Wyndham has, maybe a little meditation. Maybe that helps. I don't know. But if I'm in that category there, I'm looking at guys like DMAC or a really nice young player that's progressing rapidly, like a Wyndham Clark. You got to have your eyes on a kid like Austin Eckroat. I mean, this kid's a stud.
Yeah, I mean, he's University of Texas. That is not Oklahoma State. Eckroat.
Yes. Oklahoma Hornets. Yes.
You know what's interesting? Eckroat's down the board a little bit, but we'll just comment on him real quick. I met Austin. Was it probably 3 years ago at the PXG College Showcase? He was one of the first kids in that group, and I got to know Austin pretty well, and we stayed in touch. And I did a thing on Golf Channel with him on the show called The Cut, and he travels with his dad out there on tour.
All right.
And that's his team, and obviously has his caddy. But when I watched Austin play in this college showcase event, and there was a bunch of guys there, and you could just see the confidence in like the internal swag. Like he just was comfortable with who he was and what he was capable of doing and what his strengths were. And you got a feeling that when he got out on tour, like there was going to be a learning curve. And I caught up with him in Vegas out there at the tournament, and he was just getting his feet underneath him. But you could just tell, like, man, it's coming, like I'm fine. I'll just got to do a little bit better here, a little bit better there, but I'm figuring this thing out.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he's starting to figure it out. I mean, he's a confident player, not a very big guy, not going to overpower anything, but he is one of those guys that you kind of get the feeling of, okay, an Austin Eckroat is he a younger Kevin Streelman? Is he a younger Ches Reavie? Is he a young, is he that kind of guy? No.
I think the ceiling's much higher there.
You think so? Okay.
Just purely from This is going to sound tough, but I don't know how else to put it. Watching him last week warm up, prepare on the range, he just strikes me as way more of an athlete. Now, I know he's not as big as Wyndham Clark, but he reminds me more of a player like that than he does of, Jeff Maggart's family tree that you're going down there.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like just, guys that are Kevin Streelman is a world-class player. You know what I mean? And you never see the guy coming, and you go out play golf with him. He shoots 65 and he's fantastic. But I think the modern tour, you need to be a little bit more, to quote John Ellis, go be an athlete.
Right.
Right. And Austin Eckroat strikes me as an athlete, and he's got a little bounce in his step at a U.S. Open where there's some big names on the range. And I saw him walking around, and I was like, this kid's got a little self-belief. I'm going to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
And I like what I've seen.
He's not scared. He's not scared.
No,
he's not scared. And the one thing with Austin is that, his driver, he'll keep it in front of him. His iron game, when you look at it, I think he's starting to figure it out. It's really improved over the last 3 months. His iron game has gotten better. I think his short game, he was very good last week where he finished 10th. And his putter, it's right there. He's had some good weeks and he's had some bad weeks. Is he ready to win this kind of event? Seems like a big ask, but I'm with you at 125, 130, somewhere in there. I'd sprinkle a little on Eckroat for a long shot to win here, because he's got that inner belief. He's got that swag. He always has, and he's starting to figure out the PGA Tour life out there, which is cool to see. In this range that we were at, is Wyndham Clark going to go back to back this media tour that he's on? He's going to be a bit exhausted. Max Homa doesn't seem to be playing all that great of golf. Another miscut last week. I'm not going to lean into Cameron Young. I'm not going to lean into Sung J M. Jason Day's at 50, pass. Brian Harmon at 60. Not going to play him to win. JT at 60. Would you rather play JT or Harris English at 60 to 1?
I plead the fifth. Come on.
Okay.
What kind of question is that?
Justin Thomas is 60 to 1.
Oh man.
Do you find it strange? JT's tweeting in on Sunday. It just seemed a little unusual from JT. Just seems, I don't know what's up there. I really don't. I don't know what's up with JT. It kind of struck me not like JT to be tweeting in on Sunday. I mean, hey guys, the course and this and that, and making a prediction on who's going to win, and then they're going to go live with home and all that fun. All that stuff is fun. Don't get me wrong. Just didn't strike me as JT.
We got time for JT?
Go for it.
Right? I think about, a grip on your club's like a grip on your world. And JT is, who are his buddies, right? Ricky Smiley and Jordan, the original spring break crew. And they're going through an evolution like we all do in life.
Yep.
And I think that his dad has been his coach. His dad is the CEO of Justin Thomas Enterprises, right? I also think that Jordan has a kid in an RV. Ricky has a kid. Jordan's got probably another kid on the way. All of these things just kind of point towards JT tweeting on a Sunday is like, hey guys, I want to join the party. I'm not there, but I want to join the party.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe we're underestimating how much of an impact or a positive impact somebody like Tiger Woods has had on his life. So I think that JT is a top 10 player in the world and will be, and probably will win another major, but he'll definitely win multiple times on tour again. But I think he's going through a little bit of a life evolution. And like so many of us, he's just trying to figure it out. I've been through him. You've been through him. Sure. So I'm not slighting his game. I just feel like other parts of his world aren't in the place to allow him to be super comfortable in his game. And, reaching out and tweeting to the world in the final round of a U.S. Open that he's not playing in, kind of fits that, maybe a little bit of that storyline for me.
Yeah.
And, of that group, JT is the one that always carries himself as the guy's guy and the leader and everything, and he definitely comes across as the alpha dog, and leaders lead, and he's I think that's just an interesting kind of observation from being out here. I'm a
Yeah.
big Justin Thomas fan.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think he's done wonderful things for American golf, American team golf. I love the fact that he's the son of a PGA member and he's winning PGA championships. I just think there's a little life evolution going on there, and
Yeah.
when he gets comfortable again, he'll be another world beater. He'll get after it again. But that's why you see 60-1, and no one goes near it. Whereas you talk about people betting Fleetwood at any number until it happens. There wasn't anyone last week that said that they were going to touch JT at 50, let alone 60, on a golf course that's 600 yards shorter.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think game-wise, it's just this frustration of putting that I'm sure now has leaked into other parts of his game, and so you kind of hit the bottom, right? We've seen that with players where the putter just doesn't cooperate, and then it just slowly filters in through the rest of the game. All of a sudden, your driver's not as clean, your irons are not as clean, you can't get up and down, you get a couple bad breaks, and you shoot 81 at the U.S. Open. And so I've seen that many, many times. I think that's the most impressive thing with Scotty Scheffler is as bad as his putting has been, just how absurdly great the other parts of his game is like that. And if it continues, will there be some erosion from that part of the game as we've seen, from guys that we've seen in the past? Like it happens all the time where the putter can weigh on you. Like you're putting, you're right there and you can't make putts. And then it happens again and again and again. And then all of a sudden, life takes over and things are moving very quickly out there on the PGA Tour. Hunter Mayhem said some really interesting things yesterday about life on tour. And I encourage the audience to go listen to it if you haven't, as we were talking about Wyndham and how things can get happening very quickly out on the road. Mm-hmm. And they can snowball really, really fast if you don't watch it. And so it was some really interesting insight about the struggle, because you're going to have struggle, and JT's going through the struggle. Jordan Spieth went through the struggle for 3 years. Ricky Fowler went through the struggle for 3 years.
Sure.
3 years, guys. I mean, both Ricky and Jordan were 3 years. And so let's hope it's not 3 years for JT. Let's hope that's not the case. All right. Where are we? Minwoo Lee, 65.
It's not a major, so he's not going to play well. So he's kidding me. He hit a 407-yard drive last week.
Wow.
On 16.
Speaking of swag, Minwoo's got swag. Well, Minwoo's got a lot of swag, but Shane Lowry's got a little swag in himself too at 65. Denny McCarthy, Connors, Eckroat now is at 80. Just updated. Man, he's getting played up. People are betting this as we
time
we talk.
We talked about it. He just dropped 20 points.
I know.
Right? I mean, this is the real thing on Tuesdays. Come on, folks. Pay attention. As soon as you hear the name, hit it, because it's going to drop. It's going to drop. It's going to drop.
Adam Scott, 90. Keegan Bradley, 90. Jaeger Baum at 110. Woodland at 110. There's my boy, Ludwig Aberg, 110. I like watching that dude play, man. I'm excited to watch his career as he gets out there on the PGA Tour. Sponsor exemption, right, Ludwig?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anybody through that range? We talked about Eckroat already. Anybody else there that you would be willing to throw a win ticket at? McCarthy, look, I've been touting McCarthy. I was all over him at Memorial. He finished second to your boy Hovland. I'm gonna pass this week though. I want a little more difficult golf course for McCarthy.
Oh, that's an interesting take. I like that.
I need more teeth. McCarthy, to me, I like. Don't get me wrong. I like where he's going with his game. I do, and it's been well documented. But I just need a little more teeth here.
That's an interesting take.
Every once in a while, I surprise the hell out of people. Comment.
Yeah.
All right, so you don't like anybody there. So now we're getting into the long odds. Another guy that's been bet way down. Mark Hubbard opened at 250. He's down to 130 now. And so That's a guy that is getting some respect. I mean, Putnam can make some birdies at 130.
Yeah. Trending in
Yep,
that range,
trending.
right? In that range right there, though, if somebody, so I'll use a name that's there as an example from the Charles Schwab, Emiliano Grillo is there. Who can pull in that range an Emiliano Grillo of all those names? And I think there's two that catch my eye in that range, and that's Eric Cole and Justin Suh,
Suh's my guy. Yep.
because both of them can go,
Yep.
can go nuclear with the putter, and they're both easily good enough on approach play with how good their putter is.
Yeah.
So if you're going to give me somebody in that range, I need somebody who's really going to do something exceptionally well. Like Steven Yeager, that guy's going to hit like 75 of 72 greens. I get it. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things though, where like I need 20 birdies this week. Okay. Over the last 5 years, the average winning score is 17 under par. Right. Yeah. There's a chance there's going to be a playoff. I need a birdie on the first hole of the playoff. Right. I mean, it's just one of those things where I need guys. I don't mind if he's going to make a couple bogeys. I don't even mind if the guy makes a double, or if like Tom Kim makes a quad. I need a guy that can that can get to 20 plus birdies this week. That's like the number one thing written on my list. Who can make 20 birdies on this golf course? And then you break it down from there. Who can do that? And I think either Cole or Suh can do that, especially, I mean, the way they putt is just ridiculous. So in that range, that's where my head's at.
Yeah, I think Suh. Suh's my guy, definitely, in this range here as a long shot. He's going to make birdies. Yep. You look at him over the season here. He's definitely in that upper. I'd say he's in the top 30. When it comes to making birdies. I think his putter obviously is his strength around the green. Probably not quite as clean, but I'm willing to look past that this week. But if we're looking for that angle, right? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for an angle to sprinkle some money on. I would definitely give the nod to Justin Suh. And it's good to see him now. It's good to see him on the telecast, right? Playing well.
First tour event, right?
Really is.
Sponsors exemption for him, right? Back when the three came through, Hovland, he and Colin.
Yep.
He's ranked third in the field of a designated field in strokes gained putting. Mm-hmm. So if we can get the iron game to go 3 or 4, then that guy is going to be in the conversation come Sunday. And at 150 or whatever you mentioned he was, what's he 175? Mm-hmm. He's, I mean, that's what you need. I mean, that's down in that area of the list, folks. There's the miracles don't happen on the PGA Tour. You need some skill that's going to be above and beyond, and the guy's above and beyond with the putter. He's
got to be exceptional. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and he is. He's exceptional with flat stick. I mean, he's right there with. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's Denny McCarthy or Taylor Montgomery, but he's right under that.
Man, he's getting close to that though. Mm-hmm. When you think about what he's done in majors at the PGA, the US, I mean, like the guy's a seriously good putter. It's caught my attention to the point where when I get down in this realm and I go, well, okay, we need 20 birdies. That means you got to make 20 putts of probably, somewhere in the range of 8 to 20 feet. That's the type of guy that can do that. And that interests me at that level, certainly from a placement perspective, because you're going to get some good positive odds there to put that guy in the top 20. And he could certainly do it.
All right. So I guess the only other name that I would mention as we look down the board, I mean, Adam Schenk, look, 250 to 1. Schenk has popped at times. I mean, that's a guy that, look, you're looking for an angle, playing some great golf here at time. Adam Schenk, I mean, 250 to 1. He's been right there. Chances to win. Those are big odds. Another guy that's played well here, not showing his best form right now, but can get hot, and we've seen it, and can compete on these types of golf courses as he did earlier in the year, 5th at the RBC. He wasn't 5th at the RBC. Sorry. Hold on a second here. A guy that can play well in these types of golf courses. He was 34th at the Masters earlier this year, 6th at American Express. He's got a win at the John Deere. Is he going to win an elevated event? I'm probably trying to talk myself into this, but he's played well here in the past. That's JT Poston. We know he can get hot with the putter too.
Postman,
You know,
sure.
yeah, Postman's just not clicking on all cylinders right now. But you go up to Traveler, he's coming off the missed cut. U.S. Open, he was 38th at the point. I need
It's a lot of greens in regulation. He's a
yeah,
great
I need
iron
a little.
player.
His iron game is not. I need a little more from his irons, right? JT
All
can
right.
fill it up. God bless that guy. I've watched that guy with a putter when he gets it going. Oh my! I mean, it's like he's putting in the ocean.
Wow. We got a lot of
All right.
layers to this onion called the Travelers. Hey, quick PSA, folks.
All right.
Right. This is our ninth designated event. The average official world golf ranking of the first 8 winners of the week before that they won. Right. Take a guess for me, Travis. Average of those 8.
Okay, one more time. So say it again.
You've got Rahm at the Century.
I didn't get the whole question. The average of the
average official world golf ranking of the winners of the previous 8 designated events this season.
Okay.
So what they came into the tournament ranked as: Rahm, Scotty Rahm, Kurt, Sammy Burns, Fitz, Wyndham, and Victor.
21.
Oh, my man. 22 is the number. 22. That's why he's the host, folks.
Yeah. Well,
and it's just a quick PSA because we're talking about guys at 175 to 1. And to be honest with you, Patrick Cantley's going to win this thing. And when he does,
Stop. That's your pick, Cantley. You're going Cantley.
At the top of the board, yeah, man.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm like why I feel fatigued on Cantley and Xander all of a sudden. Can you explain that to me? I just feel fatigued. I feel kind of mad at him. I don't know why. Like Xander, I just like it kind of expected that on Sunday, right? I just like having these conversations about Cantley and Xander. Maybe because we're coming off a major and they haven't won a major. And I'm fatigued on he's a great player, no weaknesses, and I'm guilty of it too. Cantley, great driver of the ball. It's going to really bell rip my LACC. And and these guys, they don't win a major championship. And so it doesn't mean that I mean they're awesome players. Don't get me wrong, folks. I'm just like in having these conversations week in and week out, major championships. I feel fatigued with Patrick and Xander, and that's a weakness because I shouldn't be. I shouldn't be fatigued for this week in the Travelers because it affects my attitude towards them and my critique to them, and I don't want that. But I can't, Patrick. I can't go there.
They're the 2 highest ranked guys on the FedEx Cup points list that haven't won this season, this wraparound season. There's a lot of urgency there. There has to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be. I mean, you've got 2 guys on the Ryder Cup team, and I'm not saying that Cantley or Xander would work their way off the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah.
But you've got 2 guys on the Ryder Cup team right now that no one thought were ever going to be on the team.
Yeah.
One is Brooks, and the other one is Wyndham Clark. Right. And I can't say Brooks is on there for certain, but come on, let's be real, folks. Right. Like there's 2 guys there. So 2 guys are getting bumped.
Yep.
That if you and I did a pod on January 1st and we had picked our 12, there's 2 guys there that are getting bumped. So nobody wants to be that guy. You know that JT doesn't want to be that guy. His partner's on that team. Right. So at the end of the day, I think there's just a huge sense of urgency. And the reason that you're getting fatigued, everyone's getting fatigued on these 2 guys because they're in the conversation every week. Every week their odds are better than 16 to 1 to win, and then they don't win. So people get tired of that.
Yeah.
And there's no emotional component to those 2 when they're in there because you feel like they should, as it is when like Fleetwood gets close or Hatton gets close, because they're up in the 30s or Lowry or somebody like that gets close. Denny McCarthy gets close. People get caught up into the, the emotion of the whole thing. Right. Ricky gets close. Right. These guys are expected to win and they haven't won yet. And that to me is why we're getting tired of it.
Yeah. There's fatigue. There's fatigue. And it's like, they'll get one. They're going to win one. Are they? I don't know, man. I mean, if I had to say, I think Cantley gets one before Xander. I think Xander's probably a slightly better player too. And I just, what I see Xander on Sunday and it hits him. I mean, what did we went? He went 62, 69, 72, 73, and look, it's hard to win, folks. I get it in major championships and we talk about it and we break it down and we want them to win and we pick them and this and that, and they want to win. But at the end of the day, like when you follow golf as closely as we do, you know, there's those intangibles, and that dog, when the moment hits, I want to see situational strokes gain. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
When that moment hits the player, how do you respond? Now, Xander, I thought took some steps last year. His win at Scottish Open, I thought was impressive.
Very good.
And so like I thought he took some steps. Now, major championships, I still think the moment feels a little too big for Xander at times. It just feels that way. Like he knocks it in the water on 16 in the Masters after racing up to the leaderboard, up to the top. And just not even a factor over the weekend. Putts coming up short. I don't know. Just feels like he's missing that next internal press the pedal down. I'm going to win a major championship. I'm that guy. We see it in Brooks and Spades. We see it in JT when he's in the hunt. That dude's going to rip your head off.
Yeah.
Tiger obviously was in a league of his own. But we see it with Scotty, and we've seen it with John Rahm. I don't know. Like I just don't see it yet with those two. And would I be surprised if one of those guys won this week? I wouldn't be surprised at all. Xander won this last year. Patrick Cantley's won multiple times on the PGA Tour, and he's won some good events. Yeah. But I'm just fatigued. Champion. I'm just fatigued right now on him, and I can't bet him this week. So I'm hoping that they miss the cut. I'm sorry.
Hey, everyone's fatigued. 2,911 miles. It's the week after. What? It's the week after the U.S. Open. Everyone's fatigued. It's okay to be fatigued. I want you to. It's all right. Go meditate. We'll see you.
All right. Hey, great stuff. We appreciate your hard work, Keith Stewart. Read the line. Enjoy your week of the Travelers, and then go home. Take some time off, will you?
I'm gonna jump in this pool.
Do it. All right, buddy.
There we go. All right.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you.